Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
Want to grow your business and take it to the next level? Well, here we all are, and we are going to show you how through hard work, perseverance, and a little help and know-how, you can take things to the next level and push the success of your business even further. Let's get going.
Hi, once again, it's good to have you on the show. My name is Amabala Stephen, and welcome to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Now, if you're unburdened lately, perhaps you need someone to talk to and extricate your pent-up feelings or emotions. You need a coach, a mentor, a spiritualist, a healer, therapist, a CEO, or a successful entrepreneur. Then you're in the right place. I can help you connect with any of those. Simply visit my website, www.youmattertolife.com, and let me help you make the smooth connection today. I'll be waiting. Now, on today's show, I have a very special person, a highly sought-after business keynotes and workshop speaker in entrepreneurship, author, and educator. Welcome with me on Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen, Charmaine.
Good. Hello, great to be here today.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Now, who is Charmaine Hammond?
Who is Charmaine Hammond? Well, I started out my career in the correctional service. I was a jail guard for about 10 years, and that inspired me to go on and learn about conflict resolution. I became a mediator, and that's when I opened up my own business. So I've had my own businesses for about 23 years, and I love working on projects that matter and make a difference in the world.
Oh, great. I love that succinct introduction. Now, can you tell me about your organization, Raise a Dream?
Sure. Raise a Dream is actually a collaboration. Myself and my business partner, Rebecca Kirstein, started the company a few years ago because both of us were working with entrepreneurs, service clubs, and organizations, charities, nonprofits, to help them build collaborations and get projects off the ground and really raise their dreams. And we discovered that we both love doing the same kind of work, although we do it a little bit differently. And we came together, started Raise a Dream, and we've had the opportunity to work with some incredible difference makers and help them build powerful collaborations with government, other businesses, other nonprofit organizations to really make a difference in the world together.
Oh, great. That's very beautiful. Now, I understand that conflicts will always arise, even in the workplace, right? However, how can your organization work with teams to resolve conflict?
Yes, conflict is such a costly expense in workplace, and it happens all the time. I mean, if you look at our personal lives, you have children, so I'm sure there's disagreements with children. we have conflicts in our family, our communities, and workplaces. And one of the things that I think is really important in resolving conflict is, first of all, to get past the assumptions. We make a lot of assumptions as humans, and I know you know that in the work that you do as well. And most of the assumptions we make are wrong. So what happens is we go off and solve the wrong problem and often damage the relationship. The other piece about resolving conflict is that it doesn't get better with age, and there's a tendency for us a lot of times to delay it, avoid it. We don't want to have that conversation, or we don't want to make the situation worse. So we either delay it or avoid it. But what happens in that process is more emotions build. There's, more people that are pulled into the conflict, and it becomes a lot more difficult to resolve. So the other tip I would say is, if there is a communication breakdown or a misunderstanding, it's better to address it early. It doesn't have to be perfect, the conversation.
Right.
You can fix it as you go. You can, take ownership if you said something incorrectly or it didn't land well on the other person. But it's really important to get those conversations going, even if they are uncomfortable.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Now, how do you help resolve difficult conversations? Do you have any tools or strategies that you employ?
Strategies, yeah. When I think about difficult conversations and the strategies to resolve that, one of the first things I always say is to prepare. Many of us, when we have these difficult conversations, whether it's with children, whether it's with our partners, whether it's in our workplace, we've really got to prepare. And a lot of times what happens is people just go into the conversation not having given any thought to what they want to say, how the best way to frame it will be, what the other person might be thinking or wondering about. And then what happens is that strategy of not preparing sort of creates a whole bunch of other issues in that conversation. Right. So I think a strategy, I almost think of it like a roadmap. If you start with preparing, then of course you need to figure out what is it we're here to talk about? What's the issue on the table? And then what we want to do is talk about why it's an issue from every person's perspective that's in the conversation. And then we want to look at what are the ways to solve this issue in a way that works for you and for me or for all people involved, and then come up with a solution. And the key at the end of this strategy is to follow up, because a lot of times we're just so relieved to be out of that conversation. Glad that's done.
That's right.
And then we don't follow it up. We don't ever want to revisit that conversation. And meanwhile, it could be brewing again.
That's right.
And then we're going to be right back to the beginning. So check in after those difficult conversations to make sure that things are okay and nothing was left unsaid that is going to become an issue later.
Oh, right. I love that. Thank you so much for that brilliant explanation. Now, let's talk about organization capacity. Now, organization capacity building. Do you think organizations are improving in this area or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we think about organizational capacity, a lot of the clients I work with, whether they're corporations or nonprofits, are really starting to look at organizational capacity right now. And I wonder if it's because of the world we're living in right now, where we're all having to do things differently. And the policies and processes that we used to use may not work if we have people working from home or partially remotely. So I love that you've raised organizational capacity, because I believe that when we can properly train from leaders to brand new employees, when we can provide people the skills to resolve conflict and the culture that welcomes healthy conversations, respectful conversations, what will often happen is people will go resolve the issues on their own. They won't go knock on the supervisor's door. But That's one right. of the reasons, I mean, you know this from the work you do, so many times people don't resolve issues without going to leadership or human resources. They don't resolve it on their own because they don't know how. They don't know how to get the conversation started. They don't know if they'll be supported if it goes sideways. So organizational capacity building is so important right now. And you heard that term soft skills for communication. Right. And I always think of conflict resolution as being an essential skill, not a soft skill. It's a really important skill.
That's right.
Capacity building, I think, is a great way to also grow your future leaders. So as you have employees that are showing strengths in a certain area, building those skills, supporting them, mentoring, that is an incredible way to build capacity, but also to free up some of the time that leadership is spending on tasks that could be done by somebody who really wants to learn a new skill and excel in their organization.
Absolutely. Thank you once again for that. Now, why is leadership a big issue in organization?
Such a big topic, isn't it? And what leadership, when I think about leadership in organizations, first of all, it's vital, because I have worked in teams that sort of, there has to be some kind of leadership, because otherwise who is being the champion of the values. I've worked for organizations where they really want to have a flat leadership, but what has happened is that there's a lot of confusion on who is sort of driving the vehicle, who's driving the change, the policies. One of the pieces that's really important for leadership, though, is that leaders be trained. I've seen so many times, and you probably have seen this too, where people get promoted to a leadership job. Often they're not even wanting it, but they get promoted. So they get promoted to a position they first of all don't want, or they don't feel prepared for. And then it's very difficult for a leader to step into that position feeling unprepared and often unsupported. And so they sort of flail about. But what happens in that is that trust within the team is deteriorating. The employee's faith in that leadership style or leader's skills starts to waver, and it creates all kinds of team issues. So I really believe that in organizations, when they invest in leadership and making sure that leaders have the right training and support and mentoring, it will really further the organization. I think of one company I worked with, and they did a great project around leadership. They built what they called leadership cohorts. And so they would pair up a seasoned leader with a new leader, or a leader that was sort of not quite in leadership role yet, but they were being progressed or succession planned to be in that role. And it was fantastic because the newer leaders felt so supported, and they were able to fast track their learning. So back to your question about capacity building, that's another, we can combine capacity building and leadership.
That's right. Oh, great. Thank you so much for that. Now, talking about trust, because I know you mentioned trust in the conversation now. Stephen Covey once said that trust is the glue of life. It is the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It is the foundational principle that holds all relationships. Now, how important is the subject of trust in making it through any crisis?
Oh, I love that quote, by the way, of Stephen Covey's work. I just so appreciate the work that he did. Trust is so important in a crisis. And I've done a lot of work when I worked in the correctional system. I've done a lot of work around community disasters. And when a crisis occurs, whether it's a crisis in our family, somebody loses their job, there's a financial impact, a family member becomes ill, or whether it's a crisis in a workplace or community, trust is often what will get people through. And what I learned is that people don't need to have all the answers. They need to have helpful answers. And so there is often a tendency of leaders to provide people with so much information in a crisis that it's overwhelming. And what one of the colleagues that I have in my world, and I respect his work so much, Greg, he's a crisis communicator, and he always sort of reminded me of the importance of speaking in when you're in a crisis, to communicate in short sentences with clear information and let people know what they need to do, and to reduce fear, like to help keep people calm. And when leaders can do that repeatedly, what they're actually doing is building trust. And in a crisis, people want to feel that whoever is in charge, I'm air quoting here, but whoever's in charge or leading this crisis, that they can go to that person, that if they have a question, they can ask. And so trust is key. And it is, I believe, a fundamental foundation in our relationships. When we trust each other, things can go sideways, things can get messy, and we can still get back on track and work it through. But if there isn't trust and something goes sideways and something gets messy, sometimes that is the end of a relationship, which is so tragic. And we see that at work and at home.
Oh, great. People often talk about resiliency. Now, how important is resiliency to an individual or any business organization? Do you have any insight?
Resilience, one of my favorite topics to talk about. Resilience is, I believe, now more than ever, so important, because given the world we're living in right now, people are dealing not only with a lot of stress and frequent change, sometimes change that doesn't even make sense in the moment, change that we can't control. And so there's change going on, there's uncertainty going on. A lot of times families have had their own challenges come up, and it's impacting in the workplace. So resilience, I like to think about as the ability to bounce forward after change, challenge, crisis, and adversity. And by bouncing forward, I mean that when difficult things happen in our life, it's sort of around taking a step forward. And the bounce forward part might be that you learned a new skill, that you were able to ask for help, but it's about not getting stuck in the situation, but being able to move forward. So it is a critical skill. What I am loving right now is that I am seeing a lot of organizations, from small little charities to big, large corporations, providing employees with programs on resilience, training on resilience. And I've actually seen some that are opening up those training programs to the employees' families. And that gets me really excited, because I think, well, can you imagine, you've got the workplace dealing with resilience and the family learning the same skills. And I think that's a recipe for success.
Right. Nice one. Now, I'll get over to my question for today now. What are the top 5 leadership skills for successfully building and leading teams?
Oh, 5 top leadership skills. One of them, I believe, is communication. It's so critical to be a strong and effective communicator. The other one, I'm going to go back to what you mentioned earlier. I think trust and trustworthiness, being trusting. The third skill is the ability to, and these are not in any order, but the ability to engage differences, the ability to engage people in decision making, in conversations, even if they're awkward or uncomfortable. So being able to engage people, get people excited about the goals, I think would be number 3. Number 4, I think a top skill for leadership is that ability to know when to lead and know when to follow. And I learned this one from a leader who brought me in to do some facilitation with their team. And he pulled me aside at the break and he said, "Charmaine, I have no idea how to solve this problem." He was so nervous. And I said, "Why do you believe it's your problem to solve?" And I said, "You have a team of 21 incredibly talented, skilled, seasoned people. What if they were to help you?" And what I learned from him, this is tip number 5 or leadership skill number 5. He said, "Well, aren't they expecting me to have all the answers, be all things to all people?" And I said, "Maybe they're expecting you to be vulnerable and ask for help." And he did. He went back in the room and he just said to his team, "I don't know what to do." And one of his team members, the one that he was having problems with, jumped off her chair, ran over to him and gave him a hug. And she said, "Thank you. Thank you for letting us help you solve this problem. Do you know how difficult it is to be on a team, seeing our leader struggle and feeling that it's not okay for us to share an idea?" And I just thought, wow, how incredible. So vulnerability and asking for help is also an essential leadership skill.
Very, very important, because in life, we all need others to help us at one point or another.
That's the truth.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much, Charmaine Emmon, for coming to Live Well Lived by Marvelous TV. Now, do you have any projects that you're working on?
Oh, I'm working on a new children's book right now that I'm very excited about. And what else have I got going on? I've got my corporate book that I'm working on that actually covers some of what we talked about today. It's called Working Better Together, and it's going to be talking about trust and leadership and pulling through tough times.
Oh, great. I wish you best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Any social media connections?
Yes. I'm on social media. People can connect with me at Raise a Dream.
All right. Right. Now, do you have any parting word for the audience?
Oh, a parting word. You know, I'm gonna use a quote that I love, and it's actually by Mr. Rogers. I grew up watching the Mr. Rogers TV show, and he says, "Look for the helpers. There's helpers everywhere." And I just believe right now that sometimes you're the answer to somebody's challenge or issue, And sometimes we need somebody else to be the answer to ours. So go and look for those helpers. Ask for help when you need it.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Charmaine.
Thank you.
Really an amazing time, having this talk show with you. I hope some other time we can do this again.
Yes, I would love that.
This is Amobala Stephen signing out. I need you to stay safe always, and remember to live life and live fully. Ciao.
You've told me more than once to show you my intention. My brain gets blocked at times, but now somehow I'll give you my attention. You've got to know that I ain't a person staying